It's so quiet you could hear a pin drop now. We are really excited today. We're going to do something that we haven't done in 19 years, and we've got a program that we're excited to introduce you to and kick off, the Kingdom Opportunity. About 16 months ago, Alan Pott and John Tumanel and I were riding up actually to Harbor Ministries event that they had up at Estes Park. And on the way up to that event, I shared an idea with those folks in the car, and about 4 months later, Alan called me and said, "Hey, do you mind if I run with that idea?" And so I said, great. And Alan and his team, he put together an incredible team. He'll tell you all about them and introduce you to them. Have done an unbelievable job the very first year of Kingdom Opportunity. So, Alan, you want to come up and share Kingdom Opportunity with us?
So this isn't the first time, but my memory is different than yours, Jim. I seem to recall you presented the idea, and my response is, it'll never work. And then 4 months later, you said, Alan, you want to give it a shot. So nevertheless, here we are, Kingdom Opportunity. Now, some of you may have seen some of the videos before we started, or the emails that went out. Shark Tank. Who's familiar with the Shark Tank? So business startups come and they pitch their idea to successful entrepreneurs. Kind of a neat idea, but how does that fit with the Barnabas Group? How does that fit with the Bible and what it is that we're doing here? So Jim comes to me with the idea, says run with it, and how do we put these different pieces together? I'm excited about it because I think there is an opportunity here for these to fit. I think there's an opportunity for us to have some fun and to advance the kingdom. I made two goals, and my team knows this. The two goals that I had set when we started. First of all, this is going to be a trial year. Let's throw the balloon up and let's see if it works. Goal number one, honor God. We want to make sure that everything we do is going to honor God. Goal number two, don't make any big mistakes. So. We haven't succeeded with either yet, and we'll see if we can get through both of those. Where do we go from here? In the Shark Tank, in the television show that you've all seen, or many of you have seen, the sharks are in pursuit of a return on investment. They want a return on their capital. We operate a little bit differently here. At the Kingdom Opportunity, instead of a return on capital, we want an eternal return on our investment. So what does that mean, and how does that work? And Alan, is that even biblical? Most of us are familiar with the parable of the talents. 3 stewards get 5 3-in-1 opportunities, talents, to make a return. And the owner's departing, but he states that he will return, and he will return. There's a universal application to all mankind. From the time of creation, each individual has been entrusted with resources, time, talent, and material wealth. Everything we have comes from God and belongs to him. We are responsible for using those resources so that they increase in value. Yes, we are accountable to the Lord for the use of those resources, and he demands a return on his investment. The pursuit of eternal ROI is, in large part, an application of the parable of the talents. So, where do we go from here? The next step was to put together a team. If we're not going to have sharks, we are going to have investors. And the word was put out that we're looking to put together this team. Not by my doing, but by God's. He put together an incredible team, starting with Steve Bray, and I want to introduce the Kingdom investors now. Steve Bray was our first investor, and this is alphabetical order. He founded his business in Power Plus in 1984. In addition, he founded Giving University in 2005. Barnabas member since 2001, graduated the master's program in 2003, married to his wife Nancy for 37 years, 4 kids, and a dog named Skipper. Many of you know Steve, but unfortunately Steve is traveling and is unable to make it here today, but Steve was a great aspect to the program. Andy Kang. Andy, come on up, please. Andy is passionate about comprehensive wealth management. She founded Crown Wealth Management 21 years ago with the goal of making a lasting and significant impact within her community. The trademark tagline for her business is "Live abundantly, give generously," which displays her overarching life philosophy. She has served most recently as chairperson of the president of the Financial Planning Association of Orange County and is now serving on the National Board of Advisors in Philanthropy. She's been a member of the Barnabas for the last 3 years. John Lind. John has invested over 40 years in philanthropy. As a senior advisor to ministry leaders and high-capacity donors, John founded Lind & Associates to assist in those achieving maximum ministry impact. John works with a variety of clients both nationally and abroad. John has been a Barnabas member for the past 5 years, and he also serves on our board. Dana Haynes. We're out of order. There goes the mistakes. All right, here we go. Dana is president of CityVest, a Newport Beach-based commercial and residential real estate firm. He founded 35 years ago. He's chairman of the Orange County Coast Christian Outreach, which sponsors each March the Mayor's Prayer Breakfast and the Outreach Week. And then, out of order, again, Dr. Gene Wood. Gene has invested 30 of his years of his life as a pastor. He's chaired multiple mission and denominational boards. He was featured speaker and author on the topic of turnaround for Christian ministries. 8 years ago, Gene founded Word for Asia Consulting. Today, Word for Asia clients collectively comprise the largest platform of legal Bible-related work in the mainland China. Gene has been a Barnabas member for the past 5 years. So I think it's important for me to introduce the investors because we have a very diverse and broad group that participated. Now, the process, approximately mid-year, we reached out and started looking for ministries. Upon our initial search, we received over 40 applications. 40 applications were requested, of which 33 ministries actually completed the multi-page application. Now we've got a problem. We've got 33 ministries that have applied, and how do we vet through these and come up with a finalist? Has anybody ever tried to drink from a fire hose? Well, interviewing 33 ministries over a period of a number of days is somewhat like drinking through a fire hose. We went through a very rigorous process over multiple days, and we took the 33 ministries and through an evaluation process, much discussion, and many long hours, some late nights, we were able to whittle down the 33 down to 11. That's a difficult process, and we came up with 2 problems in the very first day. Problem number 1 was it was clear that this is going to be a very difficult decision because we've got some tremendous ministries that are doing some great work in the kingdom. Problem number 2 was we're going to run out of money really quick. And the reason for that is they all deserve funding. And in our initial year here, we didn't raise near enough funds that we'd like to be able to give out to everyone. But nevertheless, we got through those problems, got through the 33, and narrowed it down to 11. And those 11 ministries, many of them are here today, including the 5 finalists, which you're all going to hear from in a few minutes. But before that, what I want to do is highlight to you the semifinalists. And many of them are here now, standing over to my side. Starting with the cause, we've got Morgan Funky. Morgan. Fish for Life, Jim Holden. Journey to Jericho, Joshua Tomasek. You heard from him earlier. And Lamplighter Ministries, Mark Hamby. Mark brought some materials here, but I encourage any of you and all of you that if you've not met with them before, take a minute afterwards and meet some of the ministries that made it to our semifinalists. In addition to that, we have a prize for them and for all others that participated. Earlier, you heard from Russ Klein. Russ is a member who leads our coaching program, and he's going to be leading some of the organizations in a series of seminars next year, exclusively for them and other members, where we're going to be looking to advance them with the leadership and some of the expertise that the Barnabas Group has. So we look forward to that next year. Thank you, Russ, for your participation there. We've got 5 ministries to get through. Lionheart, I apologize. Lionheart and Wells of Life weren't able to make it today. A couple of wonderful ministries that we've heard from here as well previously. So that being said, we've got some money to give out. And this year, you can see the prize money that we're going to be awarding this morning. First place, $25, $15, $10, $5, and $2,500. Totaling, we're giving away nearly $70,000 this year. So we're excited to do that. And should this work out, maybe next year, we can have additional investors and grow that. Now, we've got 5 of the finalists to get through. And of course, we're running late, and we don't want to do that. So let's start with next up, or first up, which is Allie. And would you welcome Allie Woodard?
Good morning, Barnabas Group, and hello, Sharks. I'm so excited to be here this morning and share with you. Frisers is a nonprofit organization founded and operated on Christian principles. Imagine a 16-year-old girl gets pregnant, an unplanned pregnancy. As Christians, we hope she's going to choose life for her unborn baby. But then what? Who's going to support her as a 16-year-old mom? Frisers was created to provide teenage parents with unconditional love and acceptance, and with tangible support to help them build healthy lives and families. The U.S. has the highest rates of teen pregnancy in the developed world. Every year, over 400,000 teenagers give birth. In addition to embarrassment and fear, teen moms are vulnerable to dropping out of high school, which limits their economic opportunities and their ability to provide for their family. Nearly 70% of teen parents rely on welfare for the majority of their life. Teen moms are very vulnerable to perpetrating child abuse and neglect because they simply are ill-equipped to parent. They are children raising children. Teen moms are vulnerable to domestic violence and other risky behaviors because their self-esteem drops so low. They're vulnerable to depression, often abandoned by family and friends when they choose to parent, leading to hopelessness and an inability to function in a healthy manner. Children of teen parents are also highly vulnerable. They suffer higher rates of developmental delays and behavioral issues, often isolated with their family, unavailable to anybody else noticing them. They're unprepared for school, rarely in preschool, and not having the skills to start kindergarten, which starts a downward cycle of failing in school, dropping out completely. For the boys, it's gangs and crime. And for the girls and the boys, it's repeating the cycle of teen parenting. Frisers began by offering comprehensive programming for teen mothers to equip and empower them as women and moms. We then saw an opportunity to directly impact the lives of the children and created programming that includes a preschool curriculum and early intervention services to catch those developmental delays and behavioral issues and connect those families to the help they need. And most recently, we added programming to support the dads and the couples as a unit. Research shows that the presence of a mother and a father in a child's life and a healthy parent-parent relationship creates the climate for positive parenting and a positive emotional home life, changing the future of those children. Our comprehensive approach for moms and dads includes, number one, providing a support group for them. We've set up support groups throughout Orange County where teen parents can build friendships with other teen parents, knowing that they're not the only ones, and with our team of volunteers who listen, encourage, support. We have 5 groups in Orange County, starting in Anaheim, La Habra, Santa Ana, Costa Mesa, and San Juan Capistrano, where teen parents can gather. At those group meetings, we support them with educational classes and workshops focused on parenting, life skills, work readiness, goal setting, healthy relationships. We provide help and resources to get them through high school and get that diploma. We introduce college and vocational training programs that will improve their economic opportunities for their life. We offer one-on-one case management and connect families with valuable resources and services in our community based on their needs. And most importantly, we help young parents to embrace their God-given value and worth. We share the gospel message with them every Christmas, every Easter, and throughout the year, we share all of God's promises and truths to give them hope. 100% of the families we serve in Orange County are low income. Families can stay with Frisers as long as they are within our age range of 13 years to 25 years old. The average mom stays 3 to 5 years, virtually growing up with our support. Orange County is rich with services and people who can benefit these families. And Frisers was intentionally designed to integrate the community to help us meet our mission and to maintain a cost-effective budget. Number one, we partner with churches who host our weekly meetings across Orange County. This not only reduces our overhead, but extends our reach in the community, provides a wonderful source of volunteers and supporters, and introduces these families to the church family. Number two, we provide dinner at all of our weekly group meetings, and we invite restaurants and church groups to donate meals throughout the year. 3, to ensure relevant education for the parents, we partner with county and community agencies, as well as private enterprise, to teach classes and workshops. For instance, SunWest Bank teaches financial literacy classes, and Human Options teaches our domestic violence classes. We partner with local universities and offer academic internships for students, giving them hands-on experience working with teen parents and children, and again, saving our nonprofit thousands of dollars that will be spent on paid personnel. Last fiscal year, we served nearly 500 teen parents and children on a cash budget of $410,000. We can do that because in-kind donations were valued at $270,000. Since our inception 10 years ago, when we were incubated by the Barnabas Group while we filed for 501c3 status, Frisers has impacted more than 2,000 teen parents and children. With our help, teen parents are graduating high school, enrolling in college and vocational training programs, gaining and maintaining employment, and learning how to be responsible, caring parents. Children are receiving early intervention services that are improving their developmental, social, and educational gains. Couples are building healthy and violence-free relationships. Families are being strengthened. Hope is being born. I'd like to share a short video that highlights a mom in the program.
When she was first born, we just had an awesome bond. I just remembered crying like crazy and saying, "Hi, baby, I'm so happy to meet you." I got pregnant when I was 14 years old. The first time I felt my baby kick was my last day of freshman year in high school. I had a lot of friends that just stopped being my friend. I really felt judged by society, and I thought, man, it's not just my life I'm ruining anymore, I'm ruining my child's life as well. So that's a lot of weight to carry at such a young age. It's just really overwhelming. I had a constant desire for help and support, and I wanted friends, but I was never gonna fit in at one of those mommy and me groups. I didn't know that there was anyone I could relate to again. I felt completely alone. So walking into Frisers, I was immediately greeted by a volunteer who gave me a big hug and said, "I'm so glad you're here." And I just immediately felt at home with them. I felt a sense of peace and belonging, and I knew that it was a community that I could really belong in. A lot of the lessons at Frisers really showed me that I'm worth loving, I'm valuable. By helping me learn how to properly love my daughter and seeing how perfect she was and knowing she's 50% me, that really helped me to love myself on a whole different level. And know that I'm capable of creating beautiful and perfect things, even if I don't do the right things all the time. I turned 22 in just about 2 weeks. My daughter is 6.5, and overall we're really happy. It's been really exciting to be able to help girls who are kind of as broken as I was. I've been working there for about 3 years now. There's so much support to be pro-life, but Frisers is one of the very few organizations I've found that continues to support young women after they make the decision to have their child. They need to know that their life has purpose, their children are going to be just fine, and they are capable of achieving their goals.
Over the past 10 years, Frisers has impacted more than 2,000 teen parents and children. With our help, teen parents are graduating high school, enrolling in college and vocational training programs, securing employment, and learning how to parent. Children are receiving early intervention services that are preparing them for kindergarten and life. Couples are building healthy relationships, and families are being strengthened. Frisers has proven itself through these 10 years to be a strong and viable organization in our community. We have 5 locations in Orange County, but still, there are hundreds of young families who can't access our services. With your support, we can surround these young families with the education and resources they need for a better future. Together, we can transform lives, families, and generations to come.
Some board members here in Orange County.
Absolutely.
And what's the qualifications and what's the expectations if people want to support you that way?
As a board member, we're looking for Christian men and women who share our passion for the work that we're doing and want to help us replicate this in Orange County and throughout the United States. there's a need for these programmings all over in all of our cities. And we want to be the leading nonprofit provider of parenting programs and helping these moms, dads, couples, and children in the name of Jesus Christ.
Thank you, Allie. Quick point of clarification, we've got 5 ministries that we're going to be reviewing here this morning, and it's in random order. And so from there, we'll go on to the awards. Next up, we have the Go Fund.
There are currently 400,000 missionaries working somewhere in the world. Would you believe that out of those 400,000, only 13,000 are working among peoples least reached with the gospel of Jesus Christ? That's 3% of our Christian missionary force trying to reach 40% of the world. At the Go Fund, we have a vision of adding 13,000 more missionaries to be working among the unreached, that these people might have access to the gospel for the very first time. My name is Luke Womack, founder and executive director of a group called the Go Fund, and I'd like to share a piece of my story today with you. So this is a picture from a long time ago, as most pictures are. I'm one of 5 kids in a wonderful family. I was also a pastor's kid, so you could say as the middle child of 5 and a PK, the odds were a bit against me. However, God was very gracious to me. I wouldn't change many things about my childhood at all, the least of which being my family. My dad came into the room almost every single night and shared a scripture with me. My brother and I were in bunk beds, and he'd come and share stories about David and Goliath, Daniel and the lion's den, etc. So my knowledge of scripture doesn't come from my own discipline so much, but my dad loving me. And I thought, like most kids probably do, that this was the status quo across the world. Every kid surely is just like me. But I learned in college that this was not the case. I learned about the unreached, the 3 billion plus people who have no access to the gospel, and I was crushed. I learned that 3 billion or 2.9 billion people have no access to this good news that I had as a kid, and that 97% of these people live in an area called the 1040 window. South Asia, North Africa, Middle East, etc. And I don't know about you, but stats do something for me, for my head, but I had to see it for myself. I wanted to feel it with my heart and experience it. And so 2010 summer, I went to India, and to be honest with you, it was the worst summer of my life. I love India, love the culture, love the people, the smells, the food, everything. But my heart hit a low when I saw a man bowing down to and worshiping what I knew was an idol, because by God's grace, my dad had taught me. And I knew that with this man that I was watching, it was likely that if no one brought the good news of Jesus Christ to him for the first time, it was likely that he would enter an eternity apart from God. And my heart could not bear that. That was crushing for me. And so I graduated soon after from college, a degree in business in 2011, and we're just asking God, okay, now that I have some of the head knowledge, I've experienced it with my heart, I want to do something with my hands. Would you help me to do that, to make an impact on these unreached? So I did the only thing I knew how to do. Most millennials don't know how to do this at this point, but I called some people. I didn't text them, I called them. I called 100 of my peers and asked them, number 1, have you ever considered a career in long-term missions to the unreached? Number 2, why are you not there now? You know what they all said? Student debt. Every single one of them said student debt. If that was removed, I would be there right now. And so I went on this journey to try to figure out what are the barriers to actually doing something about this. Number 1, first question or objection was, why not just send people without education? We have to ask that question. Here's the issue with that. 60% of unreached people live in countries that are closed to missionaries. You know who they're open to? College-educated teachers, nurses, lawyers, engineers, etc. So if we're just to neglect those who have an education, then we're to neglect 60% of the unreached who don't have access to the educated or to a missionary, because you can't just go into a country as a missionary in many cases, but you can go in as a college-educated person to bring economic value. Secondly, why not just send without debt? Certainly some graduate, believe it or not, without student debt, but the truth is that most don't. 62% of college graduates walk the stage with about $32,000 in student debt. So if we're just to neglect those who have student debt, you're to neglect 62% of your sending base. So that didn't work either. Finally, why not just send them anyway? Highly indebted, highly educated young people. Here's why this didn't work. Mission agencies, the average agency has about a $20,000 student debt limit. Now wait a minute, the average debt is $32,000, but they're saying no at 20. And by the way, 32 doubles to 64 real quick when you get married as a young person. And so they're saying no, and let me tell you, they should. They should be saying no, and here's why. We get emails all the time at the Go Fund from people who are on the field, and these people are saying, we have to come home early because of our student debt. It's crushing us. We lost a supporter back home, and we need help. So to make an exception to this rule doesn't work. We have to do better than that as the church. So we saw this progression. Higher education, we believe, was essential, but it led to student debt, agencies rejecting these people, and the net result was men like the one that I met still perhaps has not heard the gospel. And we wanted to do better than that. The mobilization paradox is what we call it. Higher education is essential, but student debt inhibits missions work. Or to put it in the words of one of our applicants, student debt is the only barrier I have right now. This is a young woman wanting to go to Iraq. Let me repeat that. This is a young woman wanting to go to Iraq to share the gospel. That's why we started the Go Fund. We are on a mission to accelerate Christian disciple making among the unreached by eliminating the barrier of student debt for qualified missionaries. We don't want to do 50 things. We want to do one thing, and we want to do it really well. We have 3 values that are very important. Number 1, long-term. We only partner with long-term missionaries to the unreached. My heart was transformed on a short-term trip, but we believe the gospel will extend to the nations through the heart languages of those who need it, and it takes time to learn a language, as you might know. Secondly, partnerships. We're only partnering with those who are being sent out from a local church. Third, only to the unreached, places least reached with the gospel. Those 3 don't change. We use what's called a 100% model, meaning 100% of what we raise publicly, online, at events, etc., goes directly toward our missionaries, and we raise all of our other funds separately, our operating funds. We have a team of 7, 6 of those full-time. All 6 of them have raised their salaries, including my wife and I. That offsets our number 1 operating cost so that we can continue to give 100% of what we receive publicly to our missionaries. The student debt repayment program is really the vehicle behind what we do. It's a 68-step process with 3 stages. They qualify online, go through a process with our program director. We sit in a room and we select the top candidates, and finally we get to say, it's time to go. We will pay 100% of your student debt on a monthly basis as you serve on the field as you've agreed to do. 41 missionary partners to date. Year by year, we've been able to grow by God's grace. Just in this last year, 24 as of today that we've been able to approve. This is kind of what the world looks like with the Go Fund colors on it. We want to continue to light that up. But all of these places are places without access to the gospel. David and Emily Rimstad, our first missionary partners, currently serving in Papua New Guinea, learning the Malayalam language for a group that currently has no books, no written language, and especially no Bible. That will change because of the help of those who have helped send them out, partners of the Go Fund. $5,000. That is what it costs to get a missionary on the field, pay 100% of their student debt, and change the story in their life from A to B, so that they might not be able to say, it is the only barrier I have right now. The way that we've been able to grow is through major events. We hosted an event in 2015. It brought in 91,000. It cost us about 12. Felt pretty good about that ROI. 100% of the 91 went directly toward our missionary partners. And over the years, we've seen those events grow. Cumulatively, these events have raised about $724,000, on average about a 5-to-1 return on investment. We want to continue to put these events on because they work. In this next year, our goal is to put on 5 events to raise $600,000 so that we can fund 30 new missionary partners to go out who wouldn't be going out otherwise. We've hosted events in Orange County and the Inland Empire, and we want to add 3 more: Central California, Northern California, Dallas, Texas, where we have relationships and where we have partners so that we can do that. This will cost about $30,000. And I want to tell you to finish how that would break down. These events have each cost us about $30,000 total. And as you can see, the ROI has been good so far. What we'd like to do with these next events is raise about $30,000 per event to put on those 3 new events. Now, what we would do with an investment of, say, $30,000 is put $10,000 toward each event. We'd raise the remaining funds from table hosts and table sponsors, but we need some seed capital to launch these, because the hardest part of entering a new market is raising the funds, of course, to put on the event in the first place. But when these people sit down and they hear the stories of the missionaries who've gone out, I believe they will be compelled to give by God's grace and direction. We measure earthly totals. $150,000 might turn into $600,000 by God's grace, but we're talking today about kingdom totals, 30 missionaries who go out to invite people for the first time to worship the King that perhaps they have never met before. So the ask today is $30,000 so that we can send out 30 missionaries who wouldn't have gone otherwise. Are you ready to invest in eternity?
Okay. Thank you, Luke. Luke, besides money, tell us about the biggest obstacles you've faced to grow the Go Fund.
One of the biggest obstacles we face outside of funding, believe it or not, is not missionaries. We have partners coming all the time through google.com. I'm sure you've heard of it, searching for a missionary, student debt relief, help, desperate, ... Go Fund, Go Fund, Go Fund. No one else is doing this. One of the other barriers that we've historically had is exactly what you mentioned, how to get people involved besides money. What we've done is we've launched an initiative called the Rope Holder Event, and it's essentially a 90-minute discussion group in a box. We have a couple of boxes in the back right here, but it basically allows people to host a vision dinner in their home, so to speak, gain exposure to God's heart for the nations, and share about this with their friends. Something that I didn't know about, the underage crisis, you can now share with your friends in your living room with a very well-done rope holder event. So our biggest obstacle at this point, outside of money, is getting people to host those events. And if you'd like to host one, again, visit us in the back.
Great. Thank you.
Luke, what kind of talents and gifts in kind would you like from the audience that you feel could take your ministry to the next level with all of the fundraising you're doing?
Thank you. Great question. We need leadership in the organization. I'm a young man who enjoys leading, but we do not have it all figured out. Proverbs 15:22 says, without counsel, plans fail, but with an abundance of counselors, they succeed. There are a few men and women in this room that I'm looking at now who have moved the needle substantially for us. We're pawns in the Lord's hands, and we need help so that we don't make a big mistake.
Let's hear it for Luke. Next up, we have Dr. Nate Landis. Where is he? Welcome.
Thanks, Alan. Good morning, Barnabas. Good morning. Good morning, Sharks. God in public schools. They sound like two mutually exclusive ideas that should never come together, like United Methodist or Jumbo Shrimp. Sometimes we think as pastors and leaders that this separation of church and state creates an impenetrable wall that pastors and principals dare not cross. They think they have no business dancing together. As a local youth pastor in an inner city context, I've learned a truth that Jesus talked about when he told us that if we follow him, he will make us into fishers of men and women. And that's good news for me because that says Jesus does on-the-job training. If we haven't gotten it right yet, he still will work with us and take us from where we are to where we need to be. And as a local youth pastor, I learned by going 8 blocks away to a public high school that if I follow Jesus, I have to remember this truth, that fish always travel in schools. Thank you, I'll be here all week. You might be groaning, but I want to tell you there's a power in taking the gospel to where the fish are. If we fight over the caught fish in the tank and we spend all our time and energy waiting for them to come to us, it won't work. If we build it, they will not come. We've got to be like Christ and go to them. So God's had me on a journey. I was in front of San Diego High School, 8 blocks from my well-endowed Presbyterian church castle I worked at, and the bell rang one day while I was sitting in my car, and this sea of 3,000 multiracial faces came pouring out of the campus. And I couldn't drive because literally I would have run someone over, and there's a lot of paperwork when you hit kids in front of schools these days. So I had to just sit there and watch all the faces pass me by. And I had this moment of clarity where I heard the Lord say, who will go for us? Who will reach these kids? I started to cry in my heart because I was getting ready to pick up linemen for a pregame football chapel, and I didn't want them to think I was soft. So I'm there talking to God. I raised my hand in my heart. I said, here I am, God, send me. I went home to my wife that night, married with a mortgage, 18 months into my marriage relationship. I said, honey, I've got a genius idea. I'm going to quit my job and go after the kids that not enough people are reaching. And I had a Presbyterian job with a Master's of Divinity that was pretty good for life, not just burn out, turn out the news light bulb and start over, but I was actually equipped for a salary with medical and retirement, and I said, God, what are you going to do? How can I take this out to the next generation instead of waiting for them to come to me? My wife looked back at me. This is how well I drafted. She looked back at me without hesitating and said, honey, I think that sounds fantastic. Thank you, God. I didn't know what she would say. No Christian small group would have given her heck for saying, let's pray more, or are you sure you heard, or the winner of all, you're hearing voices in your car. Let me make an appointment with a Christian shrink. We'll support each other through this process, but you need to see someone. But the power of going to where the fish are revolutionizes everything. This Generation Z, right now in our public schools, elementary, middle, and high schools, are literally the biggest generation in U.S. history. They're projected to be the largest generation in U.S. history by 2020. They'll be 1/3 of the population. 1/3 of our public school, 1/3 of the U.S. population is in our public schools. We've got to figure out how to go to them. God's had me on this journey as a youth pastor. I started Urban Youth Collaborative 10 years ago, and today I'm presenting an opportunity to the Sharks to expand this work into Mexico. Right now, we are a part of an organization that reaches 3,300 kids every week in 100 public schools in the U.S. Kids gather for physical and spiritual food, they invite their friends, and then they are able to invite local youth pastors in to connect with them. We believe this, that if young people can be groomed and recruited for gangs to go reach their friends and recruit them unto death, and if they can be groomed and recruited for sex trafficking, to infiltrate a campus and get a friend to get another vulnerable friend to be recruited to death, I believe we can recruit kids to life and train them to disciple and win their friends. This has worked for 10 years in the U.S., and we have an amazing open door in Mexico. Thank God for Young Life. They're here today. Thank God for FCA. We partner with them as well. There are a few groups targeting public schools in San Diego and in Southern California, but they're sorely rare. The response nowhere meets the need. But in Mexico, there's an entire generation that's being lost, and we have an open door, and there's one group I know of right now that's connected and doing stuff in public schools, and that's the partnership we have with Metamorphosis, our partners in Mexico. I want to tell you 3 stories. We can talk about stats. We've all got great budgets and plans, but I want to tell you what happens when kids get recruited and groomed to reach their friends. This is Martell Irby. He's in the center of this circle. He's a linebacker right now playing for UCLA. He was in the public high school right down the street from me last year. There was a young man on the opposing team who was just in inner conflict. Hurt people. And so this young man broke the femur of one of Martell's teammates during a game. He grabbed a face mask of another player, spun him down, could have snapped his neck, did that twice. He should have been ejected 3 different times. This young man, Martell, had been through our discipleship program, and his team would follow him wherever he led them. He would have been able to say, let's take a couple minutes off of our Bible study time and roll on these guys because they tried to kill our homeboy. But instead, he said, let's go to the center of the field. He had the maturity and the composure to take a knee with his team and the opposing team, and this fight that had been breaking out all day subsided. The entire atmosphere on the public school campus changed. I can take this photo and put it on the front page of the LA Times or the Union Tribune because it's student-led and it can't be touched. The clubs that meet during non-instructional time that are voluntary to attend can't be touched because kids stepping out in faith cannot be minimized. We'll go to the next slide very quickly. I've got just a minute. This is Morse High School. Last year, there were a series of fights that broke out. The Campus Faith Club decided instead of having a private meeting in a classroom, they're going to gather in the quad of the public school. 150 kids circled up. If you weren't in the circle, you were watching the circle. The kids invited me to take this picture, and afterwards the principal came up to me. I never met her before. She looked at me and she said, were you taking photos of the prayer circle? I said, yes, you caught me. She said, I'd like to put that on the school website because I think it's fantastic that young people are taking ownership of their campus. After all we've been through, if anybody got on my case and said student-led prayer was a bad idea, I'd challenge them to suggest a better option. This is Sam McCrae, a young man who led his Bible club at Kearney High School. He said, God, if you really want me to do this next year, I'm feeling alone and discouraged, give me a sign. Are my puffs of air making any difference? At the end of his Bible study the next week, a young woman came forward. She said, I don't talk much because I'm shy, but because of this club, I now know that God loves me. I didn't know that before. And beyond that, I've decided not to end the life of the baby that I'm carrying inside that I've told nobody about. Because of this club, God's used you to save a life. That young man had to look up at heaven and say, I was hoping for something more direct, but this will have to do, God. That's a sign. That young man and that young woman got married. They joined the club as leaders. The club moved from a small classroom to the little theater, and now it's at the Flood Church in the main sanctuary of the high school. 150 kids come a week because young people are stepping out in faith. 22 schools in Mexico have let us in this year for assemblies. We talk about a motivational message that the principals allow. We've gotten in front of 15,000 young people at 22 schools this year. We want to unleash student leaders in Mexico. We're asking for a lead gift in this ministry. We're going to mobilize student leaders to do what's happened in America. We're going to set them out to do Project 25, which is our mini grant challenge. If you've been in Master's Commission or you've heard the Kingdom Assignment, I've done that now in Mexico and all over San Diego. Last year, 60,000 hours of volunteer service were generated by young people who got a taste of their gifts and put it to work. I'm asking for a follow-up to this assembly. I want to find the Martel Irbies in that crowd. I want to find the Sam McCraes in that crowd in Mexico. We're going to have a Bible study, and we're going to unleash them. The principals in Mexico will actually be allowed to take buses of students to our campus awards celebration like we've done in the States. We'll serve the Bible. We'll serve physical food. We're going to invite kids to come to Christ. 5,000 students will hear the gospel this next year in Tijuana if you're able to partner with us. God wants his kids back. And he wants to use all of us to make that happen. Thank you, and God bless you.
Dr. Landis, I was reviewing your stats.
Yes.
And I think they're pretty old from what figures you've just quoted.
Uh-huh.
And I wanted to ask you,
Yes.
what's your big outlandish goal that you have?
So you've noticed that they've been trending upward, and we're thankful for that. So our BHAG, Big, Hairy, Audacious, God-sized goal is to have an assembly at 22 campuses in all of these areas of Mexico where we're already connected. We want them all to participate in Project 25, this Kingdom Assignment Challenge. 5 schools did it last year and crossed the border to be a part of it. This year we want 22 schools to participate, and we're going to take the Campus Awards worship and evangelistic night to them. So we're going to be able to have it both in Mexico and in San Diego, and we're hoping some ambassadors cross over to be able to show the goodwill of the body of Christ.
Nate, you do fine if you just had more enthusiasm, but...
I'll try to drink more coffee next time.
Great. There's great numbers, great open doors. You're in a spiritual battle. What's the single biggest appearance of that spiritual battle that you're facing?
I think that there are people out there that wake up every day trying to recruit kids to death. They've got a staff, they've got a budget, they've got a strategy, and they've got a team. And I want to get there first. I want to be the one that makes it before them. Whoever gets there first usually wins. So I see the battle in every kid's life when they're charting their course in a public school. They're deciding which way they're going to go, and there's all these other voices recruiting them, all these other voices crying out for their attention. And I want to be the voice that gets there first, who stays the longest, and who tells them the truth about Jesus Christ. Because kids can raise their hand in a public school in front of their friends and make a commitment to follow Jesus, and that changes everything.
Are these exciting or what? You know, one thing that we learned going through the process was that we're not going to invest in ideas, but we're going to invest in leaders. These are leaders. Along those lines, let me introduce the next two. Renod and Karen Bejjani. Would you please come up and share with us iHope?
Did you know that 98% of Christians don't share Jesus with Muslims? Well, let me tell you why that scares me. Islam is growing here, while Christianity is declining. Islam is the only major religion projected to increase faster than the world's population. In our children and our grandchildren's lifetimes, Muslims are expected to outnumber Christians. Did you know that you could be part of the solution? My husband, Renod, and I founded iHope Ministries to inspire and empower you to be part of that solution, because it's going to take every Christian actively involved to reverse these trends.
I was raised as a Christian among Muslims in Islamic countries. Christians that live in Islamic majority nations and Islamic ruled nations live in fear and without freedom. For me, it was worse than that. I was kidnapped, persecuted, tortured by Muslim extremists for being a Christian. I grew to hate Muslims. I was full of anger, fear, and hate toward Muslims. I was literally at war with Muslims when I fled and came to the US at age 13. I walked away from the Lord. And so for me, I didn't have to imagine what it would be like for our children or grandchildren to live in a Muslim majority area. I lived it as a child. And did you know that after God transformed me, what happened is I found myself, especially in 2010 when we founded iHope Ministries, I found myself serving the God I once denied as an instrument of His transforming love with the very people I once hated. And so, but the thing is the Middle East and North Africa, where I grew up, was predominantly Christian by 600 AD. But when Islam was born, Islam spread and Christianity declined. Today, that part of the world is 98% Muslim. The thing is that the root problem is that less than 2% of Christians share the gospel with Muslims. So how can they believe if they haven't heard? As we've heard from other speakers before. Now, the thing is that every Christian can be part of the solution. But the thing is that what happened in the Middle East and North Africa is happening in Christianized nations.
Well, I was certainly part of the problem. I feared Muslims. When I saw a woman in a hijab step into an elevator, I would just step back out. I thought that sharing Jesus with Muslims was something that pastors or missionaries did overseas. It never occurred to me that me, a small-town girl from the Midwest, could befriend and share the love of Jesus with a Muslim.
iHope was founded to inspire and empower you to be part of the solution, because it will take every Christian to actively do their part. Let me share a story with you that illustrates what that looks like. Jason is a business executive, and he was, like most Christians, he was a little bit afraid of Muslims, so he never shared the gospel with any of them. One day, Jason was reading from 2 Corinthians 5, verses 18 through 20. He was reading that God gave us the ministry of reconciliation, entrusting to us the message of reconciliation. Therefore, we are ambassadors for Christ, God making His appeal through us. Jason realized his responsibility as an ambassador for Christ. And he realized that he needed to model that for his family. But again, he was a little bit afraid, and he thought, well, I don't know much about Islam, the Quran, or the culture, etc. So he decided to go ahead and get equipped. So he started reading books and attending workshops and seminars, but he found the material academic, confusing, and he didn't know how to apply it.
Well, it was rocket science, because most books and seminars on this topic tend to be well suited for church planting or long-term mission work in non-westernized nations. But what we've observed is these methods tend to overwhelm and shut down, frankly, Christians from sharing the gospel with Muslims here in westernized nations. In 2012, Jason attended his very first iHope workshop. And afterwards, he shared that he was more inspired and empowered by that workshop content than in all the other books, seminars, and workshops he'd had before combined. Like other iHope alumni, Jason realized he didn't need to know all of that stuff. Through the iHope workshops, he learned the simple essentials that he really needed.
Since 2012, Jason has implemented what iHope taught him with over 100 Muslims, and 12 of them so far have accepted Christ as Lord and Savior. One is Muhammad, a refugee that came from an Islamic country. One day at a Mediterranean restaurant, Jason approached him, inquiring about the delicious-looking dish, and by the way, it's the best food, the delicious-looking dish that he was eating, and Muhammad recommended one, and a friendship was born. Jason started implementing what he learned with iHope with Muhammad. He allowed the love of Christ to flow through him to Muhammad, and eventually Muhammad accepted Jesus as Lord and Savior and was baptized. Then Muhammad came to iHope workshops, and now he is in full-time ministry. Having been raised under oppressive Islamic rule, he wanted to be part of the solution. He wanted to help transform the world to make it a better future for his family, his relatives.
To date, iHope has empowered and inspired over 7,500 Christians who have shared the gospel with over 18,000 Muslims, of which 1,400 have come to know Jesus as their Lord and Savior. Over the next 5 years, the plan is to reach 75,000 Christians. And based on previous results, that would reach 180,000 Muslims, resulting in 14,000 believers. To achieve that, in addition to our live workshops, we're adding new media channels like blogs, podcasts, and training videos in order to give quick, bite-sized samples of the content that's been so impactful, making it easier for everyone to get involved in reversing these trends.
And in 2019, we'll also be publishing 2 books. The first covers the 5 essentials every Christian must know and do with Muslims. The second is a Bible study book that is tailored for Muslim seekers. I've personally done these Bible studies with over 1,200 Muslims, and nearly 550 of them have accepted Christ so far. This book will be a unique and effective and proven tool in this field.
So with resources like this, we make it simple for you to get involved and share Jesus with Muslims. We'd love for you, if this is tugging at your heart, for you to fill out page 35 of your workbook. There is our feedback form. When you fill that out and turn that in the table in the back, that will get you the best of our blogs and upcoming podcasts and training videos. That'll give you a quick flavor that will empower you to share Jesus with Muslims. Also, you can join our book launch team to get a sneak peek of Renod's upcoming books as well. Next, share these resources with people within your organizations, churches, and people within your networks, and invite us to share this workshop content with those organizations as well. And then finally, would you consider partnering with us with your time, your talents, and your treasures?
And the simplest next step is to get together with us for a cup of coffee and find out what your role might be. So connect with us, schedule an appointment, and we'll take it from there, because it will take every Christian to be actively involved. It'll take you to be actively involved in order to reverse these alarming trends and make it a brighter future for the next generation. Thank you.
Very good presentation. Thank you very much. No wonder you're a finalist. Hey, can you kind of as you look into going into the next year, 2019, you had some goals up there, and then you had some long-term goals. What do you think is like one of the biggest obstacles you're facing today that maybe Barnabas Group members can help, besides the money?
Yes, actually having people involved that will guide us and connect with us. So I would say board members first of all, advisory council members second of all, and then people who might know their way around helping us with get our video training going, perhaps some of their talents and so on. So human resources would be the biggest thing.
A good answer. Renod and Karen, there are other ministries that target Muslims. What makes your ministry unique?
We target Christians who, in order to target Muslims, because I can reach, perhaps, I can say I've reached 1,200 Muslims, but we've reached 100 or 18,000. I couldn't do that. The reason we do that is because it does take everybody to get involved. And that's why our goal is 75,000. We believe it's achievable, but exponential growth calculators, for those who might know what that is, say we can actually reach 5 million Christians the next 5 years.
Let's hear it for Renod and Karen. Next up, Jay Panther, Young Life.
Appreciate you, sir. What's up, Barnabas, Sharks? Like I said, my name is Jay Panther, and I'm here to talk to you today about Young Life impacting hearts. And so many of you may have heard of Young Life, but for those of you that haven't, Young Life is this massive international ministry that's been around for over 75 years. And the mission statement of Young Life is to introduce every adolescent, so that's middle school through college, to introduce every adolescent to Jesus Christ and help them grow in their faith. And we are Young Life Impacting Hearts. We are the foster youth division of Young Life. But we did not start out as a Young Life ministry. 10 years ago, God brought it to my attention that we needed to be very intentional in sharing Jesus with kids in foster care, and that it wasn't happening well. So I started a ministry, and I called it Impacting Hearts. And 3 years in, God had blessed what we were doing in really unprecedented ways. And along comes Young Life, this massive machine, and they had also identified that they needed to be intentionally focusing on kids in foster care because of their unique situation. But they were having a really difficult time getting to these kids and doing it well. And so they decided that instead of reinventing the wheel, they would simply bring us on board. And so we joined Young Life, and it's been a massive blessing to be under their umbrella. As Young Life provides our entire infrastructure, they are our entire back office. They do all of our training, they do all of our insurance, and it really has been a blessing. And so I'm here today to talk to you in two capacities. One, as the area director or person in charge of Young Life Impacting Hearts here in Orange County, because God is doing amazing things here in your backyard, and there's opportunity for you to be a part of that impact. But also because I'm the foster youth guy in Young Life, we have an opportunity to take this model that we're developing here as our flagship here in Orange County and to replicate it across the entire Young Life network all over the world, impacting millions of foster youth and orphans with Jesus Christ. And so before I go any further, I want you to all understand why this is so important and why this has to be done. And since I'm a numbers guy, I'm going to share a couple statistics with you. And so the first is kids age out of foster care, meaning they're on their own at 18. By the time they're 20, 2/3 of those kids are dead, homeless, or in jail. It's simply unacceptable. There's no stability in the foster care system. The average kid lives in 13 different homes before they age out at 18. 80% of the people that are currently incarcerated in the state of California are or were in foster care. And human trafficking is the fastest growing criminal industry in the world. And 80% of the people that are currently enslaved in the US are in foster care right now. And the average age is 13. Something's got to be done. But the good news is that God is working. And so our mission statement at Young Life Impacting Hearts is to introduce every kid in foster care to Jesus Christ, to help them grow in their faith, to lead them towards self-sustaining adulthood, and to provide them the sense of family that they've been deprived of. We've all been impacted by Jesus, and our lives will literally never be the same for eternity. And we just want to have the opportunity to share that with these kids. And so I want to share with you how we do this. And to do that, I want to tell you a story about a friend of mine named Joseph. Joseph, when we first met him, was 14 years old. In high school, he was in a gang, he sold drugs, and he had just gotten a girl pregnant. Joseph came to one of our weekly clubs because his group home brought him. Now, our weekly clubs are a big part of what we do. A weekly club is a place where we take trained volunteer leaders and they hang out with kids in foster care. It's an event, and it's an opportunity to develop real, authentic relationships in a comfortable environment. And so that environment always starts with a fun, ridiculous game. And I just have to say that we do fun really, really well. Our games are messy. They always require a tarp. They involve some sort of shaving cream or whipped cream. Everybody's doing laundry afterwards. And it's leader-led, meaning that the leaders are the first ones in there and to get messy and to show the way for the kids. And this is just an opportunity to break down walls and to just create a fun, comfortable experience. Secondly, one of our volunteer leaders shares a part of their testimony. So they are showing and telling these kids how Jesus has impacted their lives. They're also modeling what it looks like to be open and honest and vulnerable, and to know that this is a safe place where we can talk about the good and the hard things. And then we do a Bible story, almost always highlighting Jesus, because he is the hero, and we need to know who he is and what he's done so that we can be in relationship with God. And finally, club ends with a big family-style meal. And that's just another opportunity to sit at a table. Most of these kids have never done a family-style dinner before. And just to talk about your week and to go deeper into what they've learned in the message that night and just to have a good time. So Joseph came to our club, but he had his hood up, and he had a furrowed brow and no smile. And he sat in the corner and he didn't speak to anybody for weeks on end. But after a couple of weeks, he started to smile a little bit when the game happened, and then he laughed. And then a few weeks later, he actually responded to one of our volunteer leaders as they tried to engage him in conversation. And within a few more weeks, he was fully engaged in club, running around, having fun like a 14-year-old kid. What a novel thing. And so we took that, and we took Joseph to camp. And now camp is another amazing tool that we have. Young Life Camp is fun, perfected. We do weekend camp during the school year and week-long camp during the summer. And camp is just relationship building on steroids. It is an opportunity to be with a leader who loves you and wants to tell you about Jesus 24 hours a day for 7 days. And you see everyone at their highs and their lows, and you remove distractions and hardships at home. And it's an opportunity to really hear the gospel in a way that makes sense. And so at camp, Joseph accepted Jesus into his heart and gave his life over. And we celebrated, and the angels celebrated, and it was amazing. But Joseph came back, and life was still happening. And all the hard things that he left when he went to camp were still there. And so he needed help. And so we did what we do with all the kids that will do it. We put them into one of our Campaigners programs. And Campaigners is just Young Life's word for discipleship. It's a group that meets outside of club. It's weekly. We study the Bible. We teach kids deeper faith truth. And we help them learn how to share their faith with their friends, to be leaders in club, to be leaders in their communities, in their foster homes, their group homes, and to be leaders at their schools. And so Joseph did that. And with the support of his friends and his leaders, he left his gang. He took responsibility for his daughter. And he became a true success. Joseph now is grown up. He's taking care of his daughter and his now wife. He is working a career job and is involved in the local church and volunteering at a Impacting Hearts Club in LA. And so he is a real success story. And we measure success, and not just through anecdotal stories like Joseph, although that would be enough. We also measure success through relationships. And the way that we do that is we can look at the fact that there are 500,000 kids in foster care in the US, 3,000 kids in foster care in Orange County, in our backyard. And 800 of those kids are in our age demographic, middle school through college. We have met over 40 of those kids. We have shared Jesus with over 40% of those kids. We have shared Jesus with over 30% of those kids, and we are intentionally pursuing discipleship with all of them. And it is really, really amazing. The truth is that our leaders are developing lifelong relationships with these kids. They are there at their high school graduation. They're there at their college graduation. They are best men and groomsmen and all of that at weddings. And our kids that are involved in this are outliers. They're not falling prey to the statistics that I shared with you earlier. And it's because their lives have value, because they know they were created by God with a purpose. And so what's happening here in Orange County is crazy exciting. But it's not just that, because like I said, I'm the foster youth guy in Young Life, and Young Life is all over the world. And so we have an opportunity to replicate this in every city where there's Young Life, which is every city. And our model works. It works in any city. It works with all social services, and it's really, really exciting, and I want to invite you into that. And what we're doing is sustainable. We're here in Orange County. We've done it in LA, and we just started one in Phoenix. And so finally, I want to ask you guys to turn to your feedback form on page 39, Young Life Impacting Hearts, and invite you into an opportunity. We need board members. We need leadership. We need people to help guide what's happening here in Orange County and to guide us as we replicate on a massive scale. We also need volunteer leaders to spend time with these kids, because the foster care system is broken, and it's a bad, horrible, scary place, and we sit in the mud and hold hands with these kids, and we do life with them daily, and we need adults that love Jesus to enter into that with us. I need a mentor, so if any of you think that that might be something that would be a good fit for you, answer the call. And finally, we need prayer. And the truth is oh, that's one. We have people in this room that are engaged with us right now. Dan Street, Randy and Melissa Lindros, Ron Henry have all been impactful in this ministry, and there's room for you. So thanks for your time, guys.
Jay, good to see you again.
Good to see you.
And I still like your hair.
Thank you.
Hey, buddy, if you were to receive money, how would it move the needle? What would you do with it?
Yeah, so if the $25,000 we would use to start 2 new cities. We'd take $12,500 for each, break it up over 3 years, $8,000, $4,000, $2,500. And Young Life is so excited about what we're doing, they will match that money, so we'll double it. And so we'll use it as seed money to recreate people like me in other cities who can break the barrier to share Jesus and train adults to go in and go where the kids are and go to the group homes and go to the foster homes and invite them into kingdom. Cool.
Terrific, Jay. Thank you so much. Exciting ministry by one and by all. So I've got a couple of kids. How do you pick a favorite child? Is it possible? How do you pick a favorite ministry? Now, I can imagine, I used to imagine as a child, being a judge at a beauty contest. How do you choose? Well, how do you choose something even so much more important than beauty, but the work of Christ and what is being done in his kingdom? Exciting times for all of us. We've got, this morning, you were able to hear about ministry to teenage girls, missionaries for the 1040 window, Bible clubs in public schools, training Christians and evangelized Muslims, and ministering to foster youth, not only locally, but replicating that nationwide. How do you possibly choose? They're choosing right now. Do we have an answer? So everybody that's been a participant, we'd like to have you up to the stage at this time, please.
You know, when you take 5 type A personalities and put them in a room for hours at a time, you have a divergence of opinions, as would be if any of you. How do you do this? Is it their focus on evangelism, discipleship, compassion? Is it their uniqueness of ministry? Do you rank it upon how large they are in the past, or their creativity and what we project will happen in the future? And there's just no right answer. You just pray that the Spirit will lead the process. And what I've been invited to say to each of you is, look, the fact that you're here, there's no losers today. And that may come across as empty to somebody, but that's going to hurt us deeply if you take it that way. Not only are you called by God, there's a divine reason there's no losers. You work for Him. You know that. But there's also a human thing. God does providential work through people and timing. The fact you're standing in front of these groups, listen, they're more important than any of us. We've had a lot of fun with this thing, sharks. I mean, we're more like minnows. I mean, it's a fun thing. But there's people out here with capabilities and grand opportunities that you can only imagine. I'll tell you, friends, it's more important that my wife be impressed with you than it is that I am. And that's true just multiple times over. And so we had to make a decision, but I think it's only the beginning of what's going to happen through Barnabas Group. And we hope that you'll believe that with all your heart. Well, friends, do we begin? Is now the time. I have been given an envelope with a 5th place. And you're asking me to justify how we came to this decision? Only the good Lord knows. But Nate, we'd like to give you this gift on behalf of the entire Barnabas Group and God's people. And I think he's going to take this ministry and he's going to multiply it 10 or 100 times over through what's in the future. Thank you for your participation. Please.
And in 4th place, I can't speak like Gene, okay? I can ask for the offering, that's about it. And in 4th place, Frisers, Allie. Congratulations.
And in 3rd place is the Go Fund.
And in 2nd place is iHope.
So, anybody have an idea for 1st place? Jay, congratulations. As Gene said, there are no losers here. And beyond the 5 that are on the stage, the other 6 that we had that were semifinalists, all 33, we've got amazing work being done by men and women that are in pursuit of God's kingdom, advancing it. And we're glad that you participated. I want to thank all the ministries that are here today. I want to thank all of you participants that have been so supportful. And thank you for all that you've done, and we look forward to what they're going to do next at this point in time. So God bless you all, and God bless the recipients of your work. Jim, you want to close us?
Well, I hope you are as excited as I was to see the very first kingdom opportunity and the results. And we're excited to see what they're going to do with the gifts that they've been given. And hopefully they'll be reporting back this year, and we're going to see God do some incredible things through the 5 ministries that you heard today. I really appreciate you guys coming out today. And remember, Virginia Proden has Christmas gifts back there for you if you'd like to buy some to give to friends, Saving My Assassin. And I hope that you have a safe drive wherever you're going today. And if you want to be a Barnabas Group partner for 2019, make sure you see Susie or I before you leave. Thank you very much. Let me pray you guys out of here. Father, I just thank you so much for just this morning and for the work that went into it, for the ministries that came and presented, for Virginia for coming out and sharing her story about how she grew up in a communist country, and just really how grateful we are that we didn't, that we grew up right here in a land that we have incredible freedom to worship you, to talk about you. Thank you for the job that Alan and his team did with the Kingdom Opportunity, for the many ministries that participated, for just I always think of the heart that you've given them for things, Lord, that we don't even think about, but yet you've given them a heart and a desire to go out and to serve you in so many incredible ways. It's a blessing to us to be able to sit here and hear about it. So we thank you. We ask for blessings on them, blessings on the other ministries that are in here that apply it as well, and are winners as along with these. So we just thank you. We lift this time up to you in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. Guys, have a great day. Thank you guys for joining us this morning.